Colleagues, can you hear us okay? Okay, so my name is Michaela Black. I'm a professor of AI at Ulster University, and I'm here delighted today as PI of the AICC project to chair this panel. With me I have Christopher Williams from Serio AI and Warren Mercer from KPath AI, who've two industries that have engaged with AICC so far, and we're going to talk about that. And from AICC itself, we have Donnacha Kirk, who is our Deputy Director of AI Technology and Research, and then we have Christopher McCausland, who's also a data scientist with us. Just a quick overview. I wanted to just show how busy a year AICC has had, and Tom has alluded to a lot of these, as has Stephen, the challenges we have. We've had 18 exceptional staff now in place, out of 25 that we will have in the next 2 years. We had 2 this time last year. So David and his leadership team with Donnacha and the rest and the AIC team here all today, I can't say I'm more than proud of this team. They are an exceptionally professional team with a great work ethic. And AICC has a lot of big demands against it, and these guys really stand up every time. So I'm just going to congratulate them. Companies, out of our target for companies engaging for the 20 days, we've already hit 44%. Our networks for national and international events that we need for Northern Ireland to raise AI, we've had 61% so far. And skills, we have just under 70%. We're sitting at 69 of those enrolled in postgraduate to try and get the skills in AI up. 17 of those have graduated to date, which is brilliant. And what is exceptional coming out of Stephen's talk, our AICC staff mentor those students, which again is a great challenge. We've got a new online provision platform coming out, so watch this space for next year. So I'm going to start off with Christopher from Serio, just to try and sort of set a scene about an AI interaction with a company. So Christopher, could I ask you just to identify for us the problem that you brought to the AICC team?
Yes, thank you, Michaela. So I'm Christopher Williams, one of the co-founders of Cicero AI. So my background is as a solicitor, and Cicero's mission is to empower solicitors with intelligent technology. So we do this with the law firms and in-house legal teams that we work with by providing a legal assistant focusing on legal tasks such as due diligence, document drafting, and legal research. We're also exploring some agentic workflows. So since the introduction of ChatGPT, there's been numerous cases in many different legal jurisdictions around the world where lawyers have used open source AI tools to file documents in court in live legal proceedings, and then very quickly have found themselves in front of legal standard committees and disciplined because they weren't using AI responsibly. So open source AI is a really useful tool, but there's 2 big risks from a legal perspective. It's a massive confidentiality risk in terms of the documents that lawyers work with, and then also the risk of AI hallucinations, whereby references to case law and legislation are often incorrect and maybe not known by the user that they're incorrect. So AI can be a really useful tool for many different legal tasks, but no AI system has a practicing certificate yet. So it's up to ultimately the human to verify the output. So at Cicero AI, we work with legal teams to ensure that they can get the benefits of AI adoption, but responsibly and with training. We have a legal knowledge base. So it's built on a legal knowledge base, and we provide sourced responses. So if you can imagine a task of a commercial lawyer reviewing a commercial property lease and generating a report, without AI, this could take a number of hours. With Cicero, they can upload this, generate a report, and then hover over the responses in the report and see where they came from in the source document. So thereby reducing the time it takes to do the task from hours to maybe 15 minutes, but with that verification step. So we started actually in Catalyst, just up the road, and received really good support from them, and then from TechStart to build our early product. And then we've been working with a number of law firms and in-house teams in Belfast and Dublin mainly. And then we were one of the first businesses in Northern Ireland to work with the AICC on the Transformer programme, which was really, really helpful.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Christopher McCausland, who had worked with the company, just to talk us through sort of the whiteboard process and how you come up with a solution for the company.
Yeah, so I think one of the initial challenges that Christopher brought to us was the question of how do we make sure that LLM responses are grounded in truth and accurate. One of the examples that was given was for conveyancing, so buying property, wherein for local regulations, you're required to have 2 witnesses to view the signing process of those documents. But if you asked one of the large language models at the time, and this was sort of roughly 9 months ago, generally the response that we give was that you only required 1 person to view that signing, which was fundamentally wrong. So at the time, and this was 9 months ago, there wasn't really a sort of standard operating procedure on how to ensure that LLMs provided a rational response. So we started to look at what our options were and implemented effectively a RAG, so retrieval augmented generation based procedure to help ensure the responses were grounded. Obviously, as Christopher mentioned earlier, there still is a requirement here for the legal professional to verify the documents and ensure that they are correct, but there is a massive speed up in terms of the output. So whenever we developed this platform, one of the main concerns was how do we make it sustainable, especially after the Transformer program ended. So we ensured that, we started with a graphical sort of programming output, but we also ensured that this had a code-based output as well. So whenever the Transformer program finished, Christopher and the team were in a position to continue development and also potentially take it to another software house and continue that development process. For us then, the responsible element here, so making sure that you did have, as one of my colleagues termed, the lawyer in the loop, was really important, and it was great for us to see the reaction from Christopher to be so willing to explore that and ensure that we did have that at the forefront of what we were developing. And I think that's been really positive for most of the SMEs that we've worked with, that there is a real appetite there to understand more about responsible AI and make sure that the technologies and tools that they're delivering are responsible. I think then lastly for me, one of the sort of great outputs from this was that, a few months after our Transformer project ended, our Cicero had a product out to market, which I think is a great outcome for the Transformer team and something that, we're delighted to see. And obviously that product continues today and is continued to be developed. So it's a great output for the economy as well.
And again, just then coming back to yourself, Christopher, from the company's point of view, do you want to discuss any of the impacts of that solution or new openings that maybe came from that?
Yeah, well, just having, going through the Transformer program and, having the AICC guys work with Cicero AI technical co-founder Ankit, was really, really helpful to start with in terms of just some insights that he had, and he's an AI expert. And then, whenever we took that back out to market to, especially at that stage with some of the law firms that we were testing with, they did see a significant difference in terms of what we had presented to them before. So that was really advantageous. And then just in general, in terms of the, sort of joint approach with the AICC, it hasn't just stopped at the Transformer program. I was speaking at an Innovate UK event with the AICC, and obviously here today. And they've also, the University of Ulster have just opened up a Centre for Legal Technology, and there's been introductions around that as well. So it's really, really positive, for just to start up that way. So it was really good.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So I'm going to move on to a second part of our presentations here today, or our panel, and I'm going to invite Donnacha, who works with AICC, to share some experiences to date of SMEs, and we're going to move on to the topic of agentic AI.
Thanks, Michaela. So, yeah, what's fantastic about being able to go out and meet so many SMEs is we really get a taste for what AI concepts have really trickled down out of the tech bubble and into everyday usage. And agents and agentic AI is definitely one of those. But I think we find that every company we meet almost has a different definition of what that means. So to some, it's a chatbot is an agent. To some, it's a large language model that's got tool use attached. Others, it could be a smaller LLM that has a very particular persona or objective that is different from a large generic model like a GPT-5 or a Copilot. And what's been fantastic working with KPath, Warren and his team as an SME, is that they're thinking very hard about agentic AI and what the web is going to look like in 2, 3, 5 years' time when agents become much more various and adopted. And so I'd just like to ask Warren, really, what is an agent if it's not a LLM with a credit card attached? And how do you guys see the web looking very different from today in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, see it fundamentally changing, but to come back to your point, agentic AI is something that most people don't seem to get. So at KPath, we talk to lots of organizations from the enterprise level right down. People don't know what agentic AI is. So obviously, Donnacha mentioned, is it an agent with a credit card attached? I mean, maybe. Is it an agent with a larger LLM attached? Maybe. There's lots of definition around that, but for us purposely, it's an AI agent that communicates with another AI agent on a goal-driven or orientated task outcome. What it can do to get there is through tool selection. It can use API orchestration, whatever it needs to. What it is not is a prompt from a user. So that's generative AI, which I'm sure 90%, in fact, I would like to imagine 100% of us in this room use. Generative AI's content creation effectively, or you give a prompt, it creates an outcome, whether it's a PDF or an image or a video, whatever. But agentic AI, certainly in our response in KPath, is that it's an agent, works autonomously, has a goal-oriented outcome, and it goes off and does it itself without no human interaction. Now, there's obviously from the responsible, excuse me, the responsible element side of things, human-in-the-loop scenarios absolutely exist. Like I wouldn't say, let this loose on your doctor's surgery, because there needs to be a human to verify data and things like that. But certainly the answer really simply, agentic AI to us is an agent with an outcome that is driven by itself through tool selection, API orchestration.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Donnacha. Just to ask Donnacha, what practical developments do you think need to be in place to deliver the potential of this agentic web, and what do you think the ETA is around that?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of our SMEs that are maybe not native techie companies, agents they seem quite far away in terms of something they could develop. And I think we're going to need to commodify a lot of the components and make it as easy to build an AI agent as it is maybe to create a website using something like Squarespace. I think we are seeing developments in that direction. Warren and team will be able to give chapter and verse on this, but things like, even in the last few weeks, the Google Agent Payments Protocol, OpenAI's connection with Shopify, these integrations where key components that a company would like to deploy as part of an agentic workflow, like payment being a crucial one, become something that you just plug and play like Lego bricks. So I think we've seen a huge leap even in the last couple of months in that direction. I don't think we're quite there yet, that some of our SMEs that maybe their entire tech arm would be licensing M365, and they don't go beyond that. I don't think they're confident enough to be building and deploying their own agents yet. And I think that can be a mental leap that we've got to make as technologists. We say, well, there's tons of agent builders available out there, but even something as simple as like logging into the console of one of the hyperscalers, like a Microsoft Azure or a GCP, that can be very intimidating for smaller SMEs that are maybe not tech native. And I think we need to see the technology diffuse out beyond the people that are comfortable doing those kind of things before we're going to really see that big explosion. I thought Tom's presentation and the report, which I've had the privilege of reading, is a fantastic resource for us, and something that is, I think, a bit unique about the Northern Ireland economy compared to some of our competitor regions is how much of an SME-heavy economy we are, and that can have advantages in terms of resiliency and job security when AI comes knocking. And if you have a team of 1,000 engineers and you get a 10% improvement, it can be a real temptation to lay off 100 of them. If you have one developer in your company and they get 10% more efficient, you do more with that 10%. So I think there are really strong positives of that. The downside is it is harder for an SME to spend time, money, budget, adopting new tools and technologies, so they really have to be easy to adopt and in the right shape for that company. And so I'm hoping that we continue to move in that direction. But again, maybe Warren and co have a more nose to the ground view on that.
You mentioned Google AP2, and Google share the same vision that we share in KPath. Agentic commerce is going to change how every single one of us in the room interacts with whatever device it is or whatever platform it is. OpenAI released their early stage commerce recently, which is very much in its infancy, and certainly in my opinion. They integrated with Shopify, a very low SKU volume output with Etsy. That doesn't scale. It's a very limited factor. So again, Google and what we share at KPath as well is a larger agentic framework or larger agentic footprint out there is going to exist. So Coinbase have X502 for crypto-based payments. I think that's probably going to take the lead for a while because regulation and policy, again, just to come back to responsible adoption, is going to hinder us. I mean, I don't think, again, anyone in the room would disagree with that. The UK is very far behind the rest of the world on some of this stuff. But certainly having that adoption through X402, through Coinbase, and then having ACP and then AP2 come out of Google. And Stripe also released, again, I don't know if people have seen this, ATXP. It's their concept of agent-to-agent transaction protocol, again, based on X402 from Coinbase, so crypto-based stablecoin payments. I think with AP2 from Google's side of things, having that ability to allow you as a consumer to just imagine opening up your phone and typing in, I want to book a holiday to the Bahamas, my budget's £500. I mean, you're not going to the Bahamas for a start for £500, but that's the plan. So Google released Google Agent not so long ago. It can't do that. I know the video looks really good, but it fundamentally can't do that. At KPath, we've continued to test some of these as they come out because it sort of erodes what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. But that's how I fundamentally think it's going to be changing for all of us. I think from anyone who's an enterprise leader or executive decision maker, I think for you internally, it's starting to look at what your processes look like and how you start to roll out agentic information and start to get people using it because your touch points are going to change. An email at the end of the day is not going to be a requirement. An agentic output to an agent that Donnacha has on his phone or Chris or Michaela has on their phone, I think is going to give you a much more fulfilled role later on.
Okay, thank you very much. So just coming back from the whole topic of the agentic AI, coming back to yourself, Chris, and thinking about how do you feel agentic AI has a place in your business, and if so, where?
Yeah, well, lawyers are generally always very cautious. So, you know, saying agentic AI to them might make them run away. But, you know, for certain legal tasks, you know, you can build agentic processes. So if you think of maybe if you get a property in and you need to run 20 or 30 searches, you could build a system that would go out and do that and gather all those searches. Currently, that's all very manual. But, you know, the legal sector, it's very much has to be human-centered in my view. As I said, it's, you know, lawyers have practicing certificates. They're the ones that ultimately have to make the final decisions. I think if the public went into courtrooms and, you know, instead of judges were there was an AI agent, that people would be very concerned. So there's a lot of risks around it, but you know, I think it's just kind of moving slowly and keeping the human in control. There was actually a case over in England in August whereby a lawyer filed incorrect pleadings to a court. Judge actually identified it during the hearing, gave the lawyer an opportunity to go out and kind of explain it. He went back to ChatGPT, asked that, got another case reference that was wrong, printed that case reference, handed it into the court. So, you know, in that scenario, it's very much like, you know, who's actually in control of that case? The lawyer is not leading that. And I think that has to be the case in the legal sector. So there's lots of really good use cases, but, you know, it's not moving too quickly is important.
And just on that, we have Tag Hickey with us today, who is really the head of ethics and governance within AICC. So if anybody does have any questions or concerns, please do reach out. He'd be near the stand. Just going back in the last couple of minutes here to the panel, are there any more concerns that you want to bring to the attention for any of the SMEs moving forward, particularly in that process of adopting agents, or even linking in with what Tom said and how we have to, again, it's almost a risk if we don't react, and the OECD have brought this out, if we do not react and move forward with AI, that's a risk in its own right. So how do we make that easier for the SMEs?
Be very careful about what you're buying. I say that very dramatically because it sounds a bit more dramatic than what I mean, but when you're buying agentic frameworks for your organizations, or you're buying agentic products or agentic enabled products, most of them generally aren't. Gartner did a research in June, 3,000 plus organizations researched, 130 of them were true agentic experiences. So be very conscious when you're buying stuff, again, to come back to the responsible side of things. Don't be spending your money because someone has automatically turned Salesforce into Agentforce, for example. Be very conscious about what you're buying, how you're buying it. Look at what the outcomes are. Understand if it's truly agentic. I mean, I know we're talking agentic here at the moment, but understand if it's outcome-driven, goal-orientated tool selection criteria, etc. Be very conscious about that, because the marketing hype, unfortunately, that exists in this is just next level. My background's deep cybersecurity, malware reverse engineering. I've witnessed this before, and it's just a product of attrition, unfortunately, but you need to be very conscious about that. So I would just say be wary what you're buying and how you're buying it.
I think from our perspective, one of the big misconceptions we see among SMEs is they think that the SMEs that are going to be best set up to advance into an AI or an agentic AI world are the ones with the best technology knowledge. And we find that that's not really the case. That can always be learned or can be bought in from experts. The companies that are best placed in our view are the ones that have the best understanding of their own business processes and the market they're working in. They know where they're spending money, where they're spending time, where they're making money, and that means they can make the best interventions using technology in those. The worst kind of interventions are the ones that are technology-led. We're going to do this because we can do it. Someone's shown us we can do it, not because we want to do it or we're going to get value out of it. So if we can boil down our message to one thing, it's if you're going to spend incremental time doing something, it's better understanding those business processes, and the companies that do that best are the ones that are going to succeed, because you can always get to the technology. You can always talk to experts like the people in this room. You're the only one that really knows your business and its processes.
Okay, folks, can I just thank both Gareth, Tom, and Conla and our team from Action Events for inviting us to be part of this session. The agenda again this year looks amazing, and a full house is excellent outcome. Can I just ask us to show our thanks to the panel for taking their time to contribute, and very much appreciate, and hopefully see you the rest of the day. And you're very welcome to AI Con Day 2. We'll see you there in W5.